You don't fail because you're lazy or unmotivated. You fail because your life always has an escape hatch. Whenever things feel uncomfortable, boring, frustrating, overwhelming, there's an easy way out. Something that softens the edge. Something that makes the feelings go away without even changing your situation. And that's what this video is about. Not discipline, it's not willpower, but the quiet role escapism plays in keeping people exactly where they are. Let's get into it. Let me be clear about something first. Escapism by itself isn't evil. Actually, it's human. When things get heavy, the ability or instinct to seek comfort, it actually makes sense. Entertainment, games, distraction, they cause relief. So they exist because they work. They lower your stress and they do it well. So the problem isn't that we escape. The problem is more so how easily we do it and how often we do it. Because every time you escape, you remove pressure from your situation. And I'd say pressure is the very thing that forces adaptation. And if you look back historically, people live with far fewer ways to seek comfort and disconnect from reality. Because that's what escapism basically is. You disconnect. If something in their life was broken, they didn't have these behaviors that we do to escape. It wasn't attainable. So they couldn't numb themselves endlessly. And without infinite entertainment, without constant distraction, that meant one thing. If life wasn't working, you had to simply change your life. And that means that people weren't tougher or wiser. People these days say, that, especially old heads, we were way tougher back in the day. I don't know if that's true. I just think the stakes were higher and the exits were limited. So that pressure forced growth to happen. Today we can neutralize discomfort instantly. It's a very important point. If you're frustrated with your job, distract yourself from that fact. Feeling lonely, start scrolling on social media, connect with people. Feel restless, open a screen. There are so many ways to escape from your current feeling and current state. The feeling goes away when you seek this behavior and escapism, but the situation doesn't. So the signal disappears, but the cause remains. And that's the scary part. It creates a loop where nothing ever reaches a breaking point. And without a breaking point, there's no reason to change. Sometimes you simply need rock bottom and avoid everything that distracts you from the fact that you are at rock bottom, because then things have to change. It worked for David Goggins. It worked for so many people that we know, and it works for a reason. So you're not failing. You're just adapting to comfort. So that means that the most important thing to do is leaving no escape. And that doesn't mean removing joy from your life. It means removing avoidance. Creating a rule in your own life that discomfort cannot be bypassed. If something feels wrong, unaligned, limiting, you simply have to take action. That's the only available response. You don't numb yourself first, you don't distract yourself before progress, and no comfort before confrontation. When that escape disappears, growth happens because your behavior will change automatically. You have no other choice. Think of life like a game. This is what I did for myself, and it's such a powerful trick. Gaming works because they impose constraints. You can't skip levels, you can't bypass bosses, you can't level up without effort. Imagine a game where every challenge could simply be bypassed, with a button that makes things easier and feel better instantly. One, you would never improve, and two, you wouldn't even finish this game. Because there's no reason for you to keep going. There's no reward, no journey. And life is no different. Every problem is basically a level in a game. Every weakness is a skill gap. Every difficult situation is a boss or end boss that you are meant to face and you're meant to beat. Escapism is not losing the game. It's refusing to play the main storyline. Keeping yourself busy with all these side quests if that, and never really progressing with the true red thread that is your life, that is your main storyline, that you should progress. So I'm not saying there's anything wrong with games. There's nothing wrong with entertainment. But what I see so often, and I was guilty of this for such a long time, is this. The problem is sequence. Knowing what comes first. If you escape before you act, you weaken yourself. But if you act first and earn your rest, earn your entertainment, you strengthen yourself. The first one reinforces stagnation, and the second one reinforces growth. The sequence and order of actions that you take is simply going to dictate how far you'll get in life. If you play the game of life first and enjoy entertainment later as a reward, you'll get far. If you take entertainment first to escape, you're using it as a refuge, and you won't get anywhere at all because life remains stagnant. Play the game of life first, then go for entertainment, not the other way around. This is the single most important switch I made that fixed so many things, either directly or indirectly. I was someone who had problems with inaction. This fixed it because I stopped comfort-seeking behaviors that helped me escape from reality. And at some point, that pressure became so high that I simply had no choice but to act. And I need you to get to that place, because you can. And when you remove escape, something interesting happens. As I said, at first your discomfort increases, that pressure increases. And that's normal. That's what should happen. You just need to feel the full weight of everything that you've been avoiding until that point. And instead of asking how to feel better, start asking yourself, how do I solve this problem? You'll need to be resourceful because you need to deal with all this pressure. So your creativity increases, your focus sharpens, and your momentum builds as you tackle these things. And momentum is everything. Nothing will happen because you're more disciplined or something. No, everything will happen because you restored cause and effect. It's simply switching those things around and doing your utmost to do so. So how do we apply this in practice? It's quite simple, actually, and it's very practical. Identify your main escape. The reason you do this is because you then stop trading them for other escapes. I had gaming for a while, then clubbing, then women, then social media. If I just change one and trade it for another, I can fool myself into thinking that I improved because I'm no longer gaming. But instead, I just switched it for something else, and my life would still remain stagnant because I still was able to escape while even fooling myself into thinking that I improved by no longer doing the previous escape-seeking behavior, but just changing it for a new one. Instead, you identify your main escape, and that's the one thing you turn to the most when life truly gets uncomfortable, and you give yourself this one simple rule. You don't escape until forward movement is made. So you don't even need to change your escape-seeking behavior. You can keep it. Except now, if you dislike your body, you don't distract yourself with that before you have trained. If you dislike your job, you don't numb yourself before you build a new skill and worked on that so you can start transitioning, start looking for other jobs. If your life feels stagnant, you don't escape before you've set or made another step in life. So you're not punishing yourself by taking the behavior from you or forcing yourself to change it for another one, except you're removing the shortcut towards that behavior. Therein lies the key, because then you can no longer fool yourself into thinking like, oh, I no longer game, I do clubbing now, but you don't say that to yourself. You're like, oh, I stopped gaming. So you don't even focus on the fact that clubbing ain't great behavior either. You're still escaping. That won't happen because now you recognize that you can keep the behavior and you just have to distance yourself from that behavior until you've taken action. It's that simple. Because growth doesn't come from motivation. It comes from constraint. When you don't have an escape, the only option is evolution. And that's how people change like this. That's how it happened for me. It's not through inspiration, but simply to create through creating necessity like they had back in the day. They didn't have any other choice but to change their situation because otherwise they would simply not feel better. There was nothing to escape towards. You need to take the situation, work from that frame, and operate like that with that simple rule. You don't need to be harder on yourself like we so often feel like we have to be as men, especially after watching self improvement content. Instead, you stop rescuing yourself from the discomfort that's trying to move you forward. You remove the escape, face the level you're on, defeat the end boss in front of you, and then enjoy the rest of the game knowing that you earned it. That's simply how you level up. Let me know in the comments what your main escape is. If you found this video helpful, leave a like, subscribe, click on the notification bell. See you in the next one.